Network marketing, also called MLM or multi-level marketing. Is it a great business opportunity or an opportunity to lose thousands? Our guest for this episode is Casey Bond. Casey is a certified personal finance counselor and a lifestyle reporter for Huffington Post, covering money, home, and living. Her work has also appeared on Business Insider, Yahoo Finance, MSN, The Motley Fool, U.S. News and World Report, Forbes, TheStreet, and more. I'm your host, Chris Parker, and this is the Easy Prey Podcast. Casey, thank you for coming on the Easy Prey Podcast to talk about multi-level marketing today.
No, thanks for having me on.
So can you give us an overview of what multi-level marketing is?
Yes. So you probably recognize some big brands like Tupperware, Mary Kay, some companies that have been around for quite a few decades. And those are actually multi-level marketing companies. Since then, the industry has evolved quite a bit. And some of the newer players are companies like LuLaRoe, doTERRA, a lot of companies that sell skincare products, health and wellness, things like that. So essentially what an MLM or multi-level marketing company is a company that recruits people to sell their products to their friends and family and their network. So it's also called network marketing or direct selling. Mm-hmm. And essentially what people who are involved in MLMs do is buy inventory and then go out and try to sell it. And then they can also recruit people underneath them and create a triangular, or some would say pyramid-like shape, in which they can collect commissions from the people underneath them who are also making sales.
Gotcha. So there's like two components to working the business. There's selling the product and then recruiting other people to sell the product.
Exactly.
And then I assume, wonky compensation plans to compensate you several tiers down. And that's hence the pyramid.
Exactly. Yes.
Gotcha. So is it really just limited to cosmetics and essential oils, or is this are there just a very wide range of products and services that are offered?
You'll find everything from kitchen knives to insurance products. There's a really wide-ranging number of products that MLMs can sell. But interestingly, what you'll find is most of them do sell products that are traditionally marketed towards women. And I think that's a very intentional thing, as you'll see that most people who actually sell for MLMs are also women.
So is that because traditionally, historically, men have had kind of the 9-to-5 jobs, and the women, if they're taking care of the kids, that's kind of marketed towards an extra way for them to make money working from home?
Right. Women are considered the, stay-at-home providers for the family, especially back in the day of Tupperware and Mary Kay. That was certainly the case. And these companies relied on their personal connections with other women in the home to kind of market these by word of mouth. And today, many of those types of traditional family roles still play out. And so women who may be at home with their children, who feel like they want to contribute to the household finances, maybe are feeling a little bit disconnected from the outside world. They're hanging out with kids all day, looking for a way to interact with other adults. Military wives, especially, who may not be able to get a traditional education because they're constantly moving from base to base along with their husbands. These are the type of people who are really marketed hardcore towards in terms of joining MLMs and selling for them.
Gotcha. So that makes sense. It's people that have kind of the time and the relationships to be able to actually network.
Right.
So do you see this like with the transition of the economy, or lots of portions of the economy of people going from the traditional 9-to-5 to starting to go to have more gig type of employment? Do you see like a demand or a rise in the promotion of multi-level marketing?
Yeah, I mean, these days, the gig economy is huge. I think a third of adults are involved in gig economy somehow. So this definitely presents itself as an attractive option. Many of the marketing materials for MLMs present them as an opportunity to be your own boss, be a boss babe is what they love to say, and become this entrepreneur. Although once you dig into the business model of an MLM, you start to realize that those things don't actually hold true. You don't actually own your own business. You're not an entrepreneurial in the sense that you're creating your own product.
So is that the predominant way it's marketed, as kind of some very commonalities of how it's marketed? We talked about like the exotic vacations. What are some of the consistencies that you see across MLMs in terms of how they're marketed to people?
So people who tend to be higher up in the food chain with MLMs will present the opportunity to others as this way to make a ton of money in your spare time, be able to win vacations and cars and extra product as a reward for their success in selling. That's certainly the case for a small percentage of people who are involved in MLMs. And usually those people who are going on the lavish vacations and driving the nice cars are people who got in on the ground really early, built a very large downline, or people who are recruited underneath them, and are able to collect a lot of commission. So that's really the key of being successful in an MLM, is not necessarily making a lot of sales, because you only know so many people, right? You can only cold message so many people, and people start to get tired of the pitch after a while. But if you can recruit a lot of people underneath you, then you have an almost limitless opportunity to make money that way. And another interesting thing is that the people who go to the parties, the rallies, and talk about the success they've had and how they're going on these vacations and live in beautiful houses are often paid by the MLM company itself to do that. So there's this hidden kind of speaker income that they're receiving that people might not realize.
Gotcha. So what are some of the, if someone is, for whatever reason, they're looking into participating in an MLM, what are some of the red flags of specific issues that they should watch out for?
One of the big ones is having to buy your inventory up front. That's usually a red flag, and it often gets people into trouble where they buy so much inventory, often because they're required to, aren't able to make the sales to make up for it, and then are required to keep buying inventory on a monthly basis. So you kind of dig yourself into a hole. LuLaRoe, for example, has one of the biggest buy-ins of all the MLMs at, I think, $5,000 or $6,000. Other companies may have you buy, a starter kit that's a couple $100. Again, then you're encouraged to buy more and more inventory so that you have so many options for your friends to choose from. But yeah, some of them require quite an upfront investment of your money.
Yeah, it seems to me that today with drop shipping and cross shipping and e-commerce ordering, that it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that people participating in MLMs would actually need to stock a significant amount of inventory. In that, if they have someone who wants to buy something,
right?
They could just go to, here's my referral code, go to the website and order it, and the person doesn't even have to stock.
Exactly. It's kind of an, I guess, outdated mode of marketing and selling these days, but for some reason people still keep trying.
So what are some of the other significant warning signs other than having to put out a whole lot of cash on the front end?
Sure. I mean, another big one is you're generally not out there looking for the opportunity. Somebody comes to you with it. And often the initial details of this money-making opportunity are quite vague. So I think a lot of people these days, especially with Facebook now, are used to getting these friend requests from people they probably haven't seen since high school, friends of friends of friends. You're like, oh, that's interesting that this person wants to reach out. I guess I'll add them. And suddenly you're getting these copy and pasted messages from these people that are like, oh, hey, hun, I have this great opportunity. I'd love to tell you more about this company I'm working for. Would you like to be your own boss? Would you like to become an entrepreneur? So these kind of stereotypical pitches will definitely come through from somebody often somebody you don't know that well.
It's the warning sign is the lack of clarity and the lack of details to what the opportunity really is.
Right. Because one of the tactics is to keep you in the dark for a while until you can get pulled into one of these rallies. That's another big component of the whole marketing of these companies, because they don't want you to Google the name too early on and see all of the bad press and get cold feet. It's all about reeling you in slowly.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the factors that's common around a lot of scams is having an emotional hook and getting people where they're making an emotional decision about something as opposed to a well thought out, do I have the time to do this? What's it really going to cost me? What are my obligations? Can I return the inventory?
Right. And it's true. They really play into the emotional side of people who really would like to have something of their own, who would really like to become more financially independent. And often there's this kind of female empowerment angle again, the boss babe idea, where they really play into this idea of women, especially who would like to become financially independent. So they really get you there before you're able to really think through how the business model makes sense.
Yep. And I assume also red flags would be, hey, it's easy money. You can do this really quick. It only takes a couple hours a month.
Right. I mean, normally when you go and apply for a job, you need to show them your resume, some experience. Anybody can join as long as you have the cash to get started. So that's another huge red flag.
So are there any federal or governmental agencies that are kind of acting as a watchdog for this industry?
Yes, the FTC keeps an eye on the industry. Recently, I think one of the most high-profile cases would be Herbalife, which is an MLM who got fined by the FTC for the way they operated essentially as an illegal pyramid scheme. And they were forced to pay out I think it was $25 million settlement and restructure their business. A couple more companies recently have come under fire for the same thing. They're found to be operating as pyramid schemes and are either shut down or fined and forced to remodel. So they're out there watching, but there's so many fly-by-night companies, so many new ones popping up all the time that, they can't catch every single one and investigate every single one. But hopefully, as this problem becomes more apparent, they'll be able to catch a lot more.
Yeah, I remember reading about one company called, I believe it was Advocare, that there was a $150 million settlement versus the company, the CEO, and kind of the top distributors or, consultants, whatever the terminology is that they use for that particular entity.
Right.
And that's, for making these, hey, you're going to make lots of money, kind of the unfounded income.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that a lot of proponents of MLMs will use the argument that, well, pyramid schemes are illegal. So this isn't a pyramid scheme. This isn't a predatory company. This is just multi-level marketing. And I mean, just because something is illegal doesn't mean it's not happening. They just haven't been caught yet. And as the FTC is proving, they do exist. Illegal pyramid schemes do exist operating legally until they're caught.
So for the companies that, are trying to, that are maybe operating as network marketing companies that are trying to play within the law, and, obviously there's always going to be people at any organization that are doing things and misrepresenting and stuff. But is there any entities that are helping, industry entities that are helping them to kind of change their practices and be more in the light about how their business practices are?
Not that I'm aware of. There's a direct selling association, which is the kind of organization that oversees all MLMs or direct selling companies. And they have a lot of lobbying power. They spend a lot of money ensuring that they can keep operating the way that they do. So I can't say that there's another kind of checkpoint out there that's helping them get better, because they don't really need to at this point.
So until there's more pressure from the government or there's more lawsuits, you don't see that there's going to be a whole lot of change in this particular vertical?
I think there will be. I'm not exactly sure who's going to be leading the charge on that change.
You would hope the companies will start to get more flat and more about the selling of the product and less about the promotion of the opportunity to others, and just more about actually selling the product, as most businesses do. Right. Are there instances where you think that network marketing or multi-level marketing might be a good fit for somebody?
I'm personally very hesitant to recommend that to anybody, simply because it's so easy to get in a hole with debt or overspending when there are so many other ways to make side income, especially if you do want to be your own boss. I mean, you can start your own business very easily, whether you're a writer, or you build websites, or you want to be a virtual assistant. There are so many ways to make money, either out in the world, online, become an Etsy seller. So to contribute your hard-earned money to a company that institutes these predatory type of practices, I think is doing yourself a disservice and a disservice to other people who might get wrapped up in them. I think it's best if people avoid these companies and really go out and do try to create something for themselves instead of relying on these MLMs.
Create their own products or market existing products and services from companies who aren't, like you said, predatory.
Right.
Is there any way that consumers can report if they're seeing this behavior going on from companies? Is there any way they can report it?
Yeah, the FTC does have an option on their website to report companies that are operating questionably. So I would say if you feel that you're involved in one or someone you know is involved in one and there's something shady going down, to contact the FTC and have them investigate.
Yeah. So with respect to like people who, if you know someone who's part of it, do you see, from you talking with people, does working in MLM business put strain on families at times?
Absolutely. I talked to a few people whose marriages became very rocky at the times that they were selling for MLMs, just because they're spending money that the family doesn't necessarily have. They're spending all of their time attending these meetings and Facebook Live events and pitching people on Facebook for 8 hours a day. All this time, of course, not being compensated for.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it can put strains in relationships. Friends who constantly receive these pitches from their other friends get tired of it. You can only say no so many times politely. But one of the marketing strategies, again, is to keep pushing. So yeah, I think it's an unintended consequence of selling for an MLM is you tend to put a lot of strain on your existing relationships.
Yeah. People are encouraged to leverage their own personal network as opposed to market products online or,
right.
actually
right.
Have a store or something like that.
Right. It's all about that network marketing. So marketing to the people you know.
Gotcha. So if people want to read more about what you've written about MLMs, how can they find that?
I've been reporting on MLMs for the past year for Huff Post. So if you want to read more, you can visit Huff Post and look up my byline and see what I've done.
And that's Casey Bond.
That's Casey Bond.
And if people want to follow you on social media, what's the best way that they can do that?
Yes, please follow me on Twitter, Casey Lynn Bond, CaseyLynnBond, and connect with me there.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on, Casey. I really appreciate your time.
I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Easy Prey podcast. If you found this episode helpful, tell a friend and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Notes and a transcript of this episode with Casey Bond can be found at easyprey.com/14. Have you been a victim of a scam and are you interested in sharing your story with the Easy Prey audience? Head over to easyprey.com/mystory to learn more.